Actually, my question is to Mr. Reno. Actually, can you please further explain what you have not finished just now? You said that when
It's not a KPI, right?
no, there were different approach when we are facing students of different backgrounds.
There are 18 methods.
No, there are different. You said that there are different students from different backgrounds, so that we can make sure that, especially what I experienced that.
Could you speak louder?
In my students,
yeah.
there are many types of students. Some are like sponsored students; they are very, very well done in the class. But some are self-sponsored students. Financed by their parents. They are very low esteem.
So, my dear audience, what is your focus questions?
So my question is, can you further explain what are the approach that you use when you face such students? So that
the different types of students.
Sure.
Yeah, the diversity of students, right? We will keep the questions to the second round. Okay, we take in one more questions.
My name is Ahmad Misbah. I'm from Syarikat Air Melaka. I'm an engineer by profession. Just I want to question whether there is another method of evaluation and assessment of our students, whether be it at secondary level or higher institution. Because I find that myself now going into examination hall itself is a phobia. Till today, I still have nightmare of having my mathematics and structure engineering exam. Sometimes I just have this nightmare that the exam is tomorrow. When I woke up, hey, I'm engineer already. The same nightmare goes to my son now, who is in kindergarten, year 6 years old now. One day he came back with a 99%. I don't know why kindergarten has exam also. The teacher can call it a test, exam or assessment, but it is the same. To me, when the Timbalan Perdana Menteri say, we are not going to have UPSR, we are not going to have PMR, oh, I say, my son, what's a relief at your time, you have no examination. So when he came back one day, he got 99%. Then I asked him, do you know why you get 99%? The teacher said because he colored out of the boundary. Then I say it's good. My teacher say always think out of the box. So he colored out of the boundary. It's good. And then he said, also my teacher scold me for color the cat green. Hey, I say, maybe one time at your time you have green cat. Don't worry my son, you have no examination.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmad. So this shows how questions. Coming back, I think we answer the questions of KPI first, right? Professor Abu Bakar or Dato, would you like to answer the question? KPI. Professor Abu Bakar? Yeah. This is a managerial policy questions, whether KPI drives enhancement in teaching.
KPI is actually a system of trying to assess the capabilities, competencies, and capacities of staff in an organization. And for that matter, we have had several kinds of system in the past. There's always no perfect system that has been accepted with clear what do you call sense of acceptance. So what happened is, whenever we move, we used to have the government exam, then we do away with the government exam. But then we move into something to do with the PTKs, and they get nightmares in PTK because we also conduct PTKs to help the government to help the Ministry of Education to ensure that at least teachers are well aware of their professional field. Teachers, it is a field that they need, and you use the word passion. I simply love the word passion when it comes to teaching. This is the thing that in my class, I just want to share with you. I asked every individual teacher, 60 of them, how many of your teachers would you consider, what is the percentage of your friends and colleagues in your school you would consider as incompetent? 10%, 20%, 20%, 30%, 10%, 50%, all over. Now let's total up. Let's total up and do the arithmetic. Do the arithmetic, what is the percentage and what impact it has on the children when so many of our teachers are incompetent, not simply suitable to be teachers, and they're there. And that is why there is a need to do that assessment. There's no question about that. We have got to weed out, process of weeding out until we get the best, we get the cream. In countries like Norway, Sweden, they got the best. Teachers are all first class honors in all fields, and then they get respect. So this is the challenge that the government is facing, and the system is faced with. So we have got to push that. The best teachers, the best people, and most competent. And what are the measures? Of course, the measures that you have got to have that approach, the approach of having some kind of a systematic way of weeding out the bad apples from the good ones. And it persists. And it's so sickening when you hear children being left alone, being left aside, being ignored, being slapped, being hit. And that is the challenge that we have got to face. So the best ones will come into the story. Thank you.
Professor, I couldn't help the response. I always find our country has very good policy, but coming into practice is always pushed into the box again, and they can't recognize excellence, differences is what have shared by our friends down there, or for those who are different species, and then get into engage with drilling in order to produce a result, and NUTP is fighting for some standardization. So to me, it's the whole bureaucracy in MOE, the whole bureaucracy in managerial, without able to see out of the box. And I'm one of the victims, I think, within the box. Let us share with Mr. Renu of the audience questions.
Just now somebody asked about KPI and being a teacher. Well, if we take a look at Western trends, I think our Eastern people have not recognized or awakened to this yet. There are actually three components in that KPI. First component is the researcher, who does more research, less teaching. The next one is the teacher, who teaches more, but less research. So if this researcher and teacher, they get married, I think we'll have a right formula. All right? And then followed by, of course, industry. So these three components are actually very important in the KPI. One helps another, so that it works. But I think I read somewhere September 26 star about KPI, and I think I can recognize some faces here. And they put their thumbs down as to KPI because maybe KPI is good, but the implementation is bad. The proportion given for research is too high as compared to the real role of a teacher is to be in the classroom. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. I think policy making has to be very realistic and taking into consideration of what exactly the time constraint facing by academicians in higher education institutions. Because I did make a research in 6 schools. I find policy making in Malaysia is good, but without taking the reality into considerations. And that is the part maybe we would like to provide feedback to our policymakers. Example, Professor Hussain here to represent the MOE at one time. Yes. And come back to the question of Mr. Ahmad saying the exam phobia and how in terms of assessment we could help address that. I do not know whether Professor Abu Bakar would like to give some sharing in terms of suggestions for lecturers, even in higher education institutions where we had the power, right, to decide many things in terms of task assignment, in terms of ways to run evaluations on students' performance.
This is a very tough issue, yeah. You cannot run away from assessment. Yeah, wherever you are. Even when you eat, you have to do some assessment, right? Yeah. Even when you eat, yeah, your wife prepared the meal for you. You go to a restaurant. Even while eating, you still have to assess: is the food good or not good? Is my money worth spending or not? Yeah. So put it this way, Ahmad. Yeah. To me, assessment is part and parcel of teaching and learning. Yeah. If you look at the cycle of teaching and learning, especially now with the OBE, yeah, you have the objective, you have the learning outcomes stated. Now, as a teacher, you have to think of the content. What is it you have to teach them? All right. Next, you think of the method. What are the best method, the most effective method for me to present the content? And finally, how do you know whether your students have learned? How do you know whether your teaching has taken place? So you cannot run away from assessment. So one, assessment to determine your own effectiveness, and most important, assessment to determine your students' achievement of the objectives. All right, that is for your class. But then assessment has other functions. One, grading, right? Because in a system you have to grade students. Yeah, you have to select for selection purposes. You have to select the good ones, especially awarding them their scholarships, etc., etc. So I think personally, you cannot run away from assessment because assessment has got different functions. But what we can do to make assessment less threatening is maybe to make assessment as authentic as possible. Authentic meaning to make assessment as real life as possible. So how do you do it? I think teachers here, you're more knowledgeable than me. So the key is to use authentic assessment. Yeah, rather than make it unrealistic. Yeah, make it authentic, make it real life. Assessment to be real life. I remember those days, yeah, when I studied letter writing, for example. So you are supposed to write a letter to your pen pal overseas, whatever, yeah, and then you are supposed to send the letter, etc. But then that letter is kept there. So what should be authentic is that once you write a letter to your pen pal, what you need to do, get actual address of pen pal, send the actual letter to that pen pal, and hopefully that pen pal will reply your letter, a response. Yeah. If you can do that, then that means you have given them something which is authentic, which is real life. But then most cases, even our tests, yeah, sometimes other than errors in the test itself, the test is unrealistic. Maybe Dr. Tan agree with this. Yeah. The tests are unrealistic. So just to answer the question, maybe teachers, you have to make your assessment more authentic, more real life, more relevant to their nature of discipline, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Very insightful suggestions. Ladies and gentlemen, don't you think you want to make use of this platform to extend your suggestions, how to address the needs of your professional learning community? I call this PLC, a professional learning community, your needs, how to address your needs. For example, just now one of the audience has shared with us, actually teaching is modeled by example and also the passion generated by teachers in terms of using core music party, and then how to get it to have an intellectual discourse. This is a third round of intellectual discourse between the audience and our panelists. You're welcome. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, come on. Not just playing with pedagogy as our friends have said. It's not just also vision, passion, but also how to address the differences in our individual students, right? Basically, just now we have talked about the diversity of learning styles, but mostly how we recognize the multiple intelligence of students, how to deal with it, how to develop the potential, as well as how to motivate students. It is an art, and our three panelists have shared with us some tips how to motivate our students. And how about you, members of the floor? How have you done and engaged with the teaching and learning to generate the enthusiasm and curiosity in your students? Would you like to share, or you would like to ask some more questions?
Yes. How are teachers being taught to learn about differentiated teaching in the classroom? Like you said, you have a lot of different students. Are teachers being equipped to be able to take on differentiated teaching methodologies? Number one, instructed teaching environments like I think I'm loud enough, am I not? Okay, I'm not. Differentiated teaching within the classroom. Are teachers being equipped with it? And in the private institutions, a lot of us go into teaching via our degrees. So we don't have that. So how are the private institutions being asked to equip the lecturers with this skill? That's my question.
We were talking just now, my name is Ken, I'm from Taylor's University. We were talking just now about the gap between higher education and the industry. I feel that our system is one of a lot of gaps. Because when students from secondary school come to us, we feel there's a gap, yeah, in what we want to do and where they are at. And also, you know, when we finish with them, there's a gap between what we produce and the needs of the industry. I feel this, and we are forever trying to rectify gaps. So I think the important place where the action should happen is actually not just so much about andragogy, but pedagogy in our secondary schools and in our primary schools. And when I feel when we get the act right, yeah, at the basic levels, yeah, everything else will become right. So with the challenges that we are facing, that is, we have a huge number of students, and also the teaching force is very much lacking. I think we should face and rectify these problems before we talk so much about what happens at the later end.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is a